Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Lin. I'm the Assistant Director for Business at the Career Centers Counseling team. So today we are so grateful to have our three wonderful speakers coming here for a data science career panel. They are all from the fintech industry. So yeah, my colleague Mike will be the host for today. Mike, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, welcome everyone. Great to have you here. Karen and I are really excited. This is the first ever fintech panel. This was Karen's idea. I guess a culmination of so many students in business, and there's so many students that I see, which are mostly the engineering, data science students interested in these different fields. And we just thought it would be, well, Karen thought it would be a great idea to bring some experts together to share some information about how to break into this field, and then kind of what it takes to be successful. So I'm excited for this. Okay. All right, so we're gonna jump into meeting the panelists, and then I have some questions which I'll throw up on the slides. We'll probably have questions. I'll throw some questions out for the first half for about, say, 30 minutes or whatever, and then have some questions for all of you can answer. Some of you can answer. We don't have to all answer every question. And then we'll turn it over to student questions. So I really encourage students to use the chat. Put your questions in there. Start early. We'll get to as many of those as we can in the second half of the session. But anything else, any questions that aren't answered, if the panelists feel comfortable, they can share their contact details, or you could connect with a career counselor to talk about some of those questions that you have. All right. So let's first do some brief introduction. So I'm going to throw it out just on my screen. I see I'll go to Alex and then Kylie and then Yona. If you could just kind of say your name, what you studied, when you graduated, and what are you doing now?
Cool. So I'm Alex. I studied cognitive science and computer science. Graduated in 2017, and now I work as a data scientist at a neobank called Chime.
Thanks, Alex. Kylie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kylie. I graduated with a data science degree and focusing on applied math and modeling. I actually graduated in 2018. And then I continue to do my master in data science, also here at Berkeley, and I just graduated in August. And I'm currently a data scientist at SoFi. It's also a online platform for banking, and also for banking, for lending products, and a lot more than that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kylie. Yona?
Hey guys, my name is Yona. I graduated with degree in business in 2016. I'm currently working as a data scientist at PayPal. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. So first, a few questions for you all around your career path. So first question is, kind of, give us a brief rundown. How did you get to where you are today? Especially important if it was kind of a non-traditional path, or any kind of breaks or any luck you had across the way would be interesting to know. So why don't we reverse? Yona, why don't we start with you?
Yep. So how did I get started with my career path? I think at first I started with a startup in my freshman year. I interned at a startup, and my sophomore year internship was with Big Four accounting firms. And around junior year, I was looking for, the industry that I want to be in, and tech came up. And I just naturally thought, because I had experience in finance, fintech would be the easiest for me to get in, but obviously that's not how it works, but that's where my brain was at the time. I applied to PayPal, got junior internship with them, and I got a return offer, and I started with them in 2017.
Thank you. Kylie?
Yes. I actually didn't think about data science or working in the industry. I started with going to a community college doing math and actually pure math, and thinking I'm gonna be a professor. I'm going to do my PhD. But yeah, like when I transferred to Cal, I realized not for me anymore. I can't do proofs every day, so I chose to apply math. And I also had the chance to do an internship for a company in Vietnam. And I realized, oh, like data is something that cool. I may be able to do like something that different than what I'm thinking that I were able to do with just like the math background. And in my in the summer of my junior year, I had the chance to go to Hong Kong for a study abroad program. I actually did machine learning there, and I fell in love with it. So I come back to Cal. Hopefully, I can chance to do something that closer to data science. But at that time, we didn't have a data science major, so I just decided to stay and and I was one of the first 9 students to graduate with a data science degree at Berkeley. The first cohort of data science. Yeah, I continued to do data science internship. And last summer, I did my internship at SoFi and got a return offer. And yeah, that's how I started my data science career.
Okay, thank you. Alex?
Yeah, so in college, I kind of thought that I wanted to do like a neuroscience PhD. So, you know, in the summers, I worked in a neuroimaging lab, but I was also kind of doing computer science at the same time and got kind of interested in the intersection between linguistics and computer science, which kind of led me to my job after graduation, which was at a really small startup where I worked on kind of NLP techniques. It was also a fintech startup, but yeah, it was like the 10th employee and we kind of worked out of a house. And I worked there for 2.5 years before leaving to work at Chime. And kind of, yeah, when I left the startup, we were 100 people and we had like an actual office. So it was really cool to kind of get a chance to start my career at a really small startup, since I got to, you know, work on things from end to end and kind of have a crash course of like understanding how to build a machine learning model. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my start.
Interesting, Kylie and Alex, you know, you're doing something now which you didn't see yourself doing when you entered college, and I think that's a story many students can tell and maybe are experiencing now. So it's just good to hear that, you know, your path isn't necessarily set. You can change the course of your career at any point. So that's good to hear. So I want to talk about the transferable skills that you gained at Cal in your work. I think as data scientists, I'm sure we can understand a lot of the technical ones, and feel free to share those, but also what are kind of the softer, maybe non-technical skills that you gained at Cal that you're utilizing in your work. Kylie, let's start with you.
Yeah, surely. In terms of technical skill, I have to say that everything that I learned at Cal, including Python, SQL, yeah, but I also learned some of the stuff on my own. But most of the technical skill are transferable. If even like 61A, just the very first computer science class is very helpful for the everyday work, including Git. And then in terms of soft skill, I feel like I learned more with my master degree, where I'm able to like do projects, more actual project with my classmate. Yeah.
Okay, next, Alex.
Yeah, so I think some of the very valuable skills were definitely around work ethic. I think a lot of the classes at Berkeley kind of require a large degree of effort. And I think that the ability to kind of, you know, start a project and finish it and, you know, kind of work on things really difficult projects has been helpful in my career. And I also think being able to collaborate on projects. I know a lot of the computer science projects where, you know, you work in teams, and kind of being able to delegate tasks within an engineering project was really helpful as well.
And Alex, did you communicate that in your resume? Do you think you did a good job of kind of showing that balance of those hard and soft skills?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of data science is working cross-functionally. So being able to kind of communicate, maybe difficult topics to people who they're not data scientists. So being able to break problems down into smaller, more manageable pieces. And I think that's a really helpful skill. And yeah, it's something that you can definitely mention in your resume.
How about you, Yona?
I can't agree more with Alex on the work ethics part, but I kind of want to touch up more on the wide breadth of skills that we learn at Cal without even realizing it. Sometimes, for example, Cal is not an easy school. It's very competitive. So obviously you have to work hard. For me, because I didn't study anything related to data, I was a cost student. And by the time I interned with PayPal, I only had very basic SQL knowledge that I learned off of like online classes. So a lot of it was on my own to pick up and just apply it. But because I was so used to that hardworking environment at Cal, I was able to do it in just one summer. And the other stuff is on like leadership skills, collaboration, just like what Alex has mentioned. And we have classes across different breadth of subjects, such as we have Excel classes, we have leadership classes, communication classes, finance. There are a lot of prerequisites that we don't really realize is important, but once you graduate, you learn that those little things come together and become your core, and you apply them without even realizing it. And I've noticed a lot of that during my internship and during my working as a data scientist at PayPal.
Yeah. And speaking of those courses you just mentioned, Yona, like that's kind of the next question is, what are some courses that maybe students can think about taking now? Like if they're maybe rooted in data science, what are some courses that can help them transition into the finance, banking, investing field to kind of build some of those skills? Any ones you could recommend?
So I bet classes have changed a lot since I graduated about 5 years ago. But one class that I found very helpful for my internship was, I think it's 106, the one that teaches you how to use Excel and pivot tables and all that. I had my basic Excel skills built from that class, and it was very helpful in my internship because often working as a data scientist, you not only have to be, proficient with languages such as SQL and Python, but you also have to draft them in Excel and like transfer that data in words. So I don't recall the class names, but anything that has to do with Excel, communication, I think those were very helpful for me.
I think Kylie and or Alex, any you would add to that?
Oh yeah, no, I actually didn't take that many econ or finance class, but I took macro and micro. I think the knowledge from those classes are still helpful. Yeah, like I didn't come from a finance background, so I can't really speak to this. But like to be honest, like to work in a fintech company, a lot of position you don't really need to know finance. This depends on which team you're gonna work with. But yeah, like having done, but I see a lot of my coworkers with finance background, and then a lot of them have like MBA. They can like have get a better knowledge of the products, like maybe even like faster and better than me. So I do recommend, if you're able to like, if you want to go to the fintech industry, then try to take as many finance class as possible. And then now like, with like all the stock investing stuff, I think it's still useful for your life anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't take a single class that was kind of finance oriented. And I think that that's kind of cool. Now I work in fintech. I've been working in fintech for almost 4 years. And I think I just learned a lot of stuff on the fly and also on YouTube.
There's one more thing I would like to add, Mike, if I may. So I know the audience has a lot of business students, but also non-business students who are in engineering computer science background. So if you're in engineering computer science background, and if you want to go into finance, banking, investing, know that these companies don't only have positions available for like a banker or investor. there are so many different positions, so many different teams under these companies. Let's say Goldman Sachs, they have different branches. You can be in investment banking, you can be in corporate research, you can be in technical roles there. So depends on what you aim for, you have to kind of find your niche in that. And another thing is, a lot of companies that interview undergraduate students have brain teaser questions and statistics related questions as, you know, for their preliminary rounds. So I would say what I found helpful was just brushing up on statistics. It doesn't have to be classes at Berkeley, but I found Stats 21 extremely helpful. 1 or 3, I think, was finance, introduction to finance. So at least have basic understanding of how finance world works, how brain teaser and like market research questions work. And a lot of resources can be found online. So I found those extremely helpful in my recruiting times.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks, Yona. That's good to add. Okay, so then transitioning over to thinking about your current employer and your role. How does your employer leverage data science, and what role do you play in that? You may already have covered that in the introduction, but if there's anything else to add, Kylie, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so nowadays, like I have to say, like for most of the tech company, data science plays a very big role. And yeah, like at SoFi, we have data science like in every single department, even risk, marketing, products. So I'm in the products data science team. And while I'm doing that, so I'm focusing on the lending products. So we do we have the lending products and also the products and team, and then also the products engagement team. What I'm doing every day, you know, was like to do like a day-to-day report, and also a mix of modeling, and also A/B testing. So my role, like I'm pretty new, so I'm kind of like here and there. But at SoFi, we usually have at least one data science responsible for one product to be able to like answer the question for all of that products, because we have so many products that like not all data scientists can like know all about these products. But yeah, for right now, I'm focusing on student loan refinance. And mostly like answering the question on them, anything that relates to that products, even in marketing, compliance, literally anything.
Cool. Okay, Alex.
Yeah, so we also use data science kind of in every aspect of the company, whether it be kind of the more obvious, like using data science to fight fraudsters. We also use data science for member services and for the product as well. And kind of what I specifically work on is I work on dispute fraud. So kind of understanding when people are, you know, submitting first-party fraud dispute claims. So kind of they made the transaction, but they're saying that they didn't make it. So kind of stuff like that. And then, you know, actually the converse where we're investigating when someone actually was legitimately defrauded. So trying to recuperate their money. And I also work on the member service side. So kind of a lot of the projects that we work on that front are improving our call center. So kind of when you call our support line, trying to predict specifically what a member is calling about so that we can triage their issues faster.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yona?
At PayPal, data science can mean multiple different things, and I'm sure in other companies it's similar. Under data science, you can have machine learning data science, you can have business side data science, you can have product data science. There are a lot of different umbrellas, and you should know the difference between data scientist and data analyst. A lot of companies have data analyst positions for a finance team. So you'll be a financial analyst in that team, putting together their financial projections and whatnot. And a lot of people with economics and business background go into that field. There is marketing analysts who help marketing team target their market segment better with the customer data that the company may have. Under data science, there is algorithm machine learning based data science that builds models. There is business side of data science that utilizes those models to make decisions and make impact on business and the company. And lastly, there is engineering data processing side of data science. So they all can mean different things. So when you're applying for a job, or if you're looking for which subsegment of data science you want to be in, it's good to know that and kind of hone your skills to match that. The role I play in that is I'm a data scientist in a business realm. So any decisions on business enablement, any risk, fraud, maybe that's a little too technical, but anything that impacts the business outlook and business state, data science goes under my portfolio.
So, Yona, if somebody with a financial business background wants to be a financial analyst, how much hard data science hard skills do they need to know? Is knowledge of Python and SQL necessary?
Every company has it differently, but I would say if you are interested in becoming a financial analyst, knowing SQL and Excel very well would be enough, because the data doesn't need to go into that like Hadoop or more specific hardcore level of data science.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. I'm going to skip over the next question. I think we kind of answered it previously. This next one, we know that finance loves data, but what industry niches would you recommend students look into to make themselves more marketable? So what are you noticing now that are it's really trending with data science? Maybe it's a program or a technology or an approach. Let's go with you, Alex.
I guess not specifically related to data science, but something that is in fintech that's really important to know right now is synthetic identity fraud. I think we're seeing a lot more synthetic identity fraud within, banking. So that's something I guess to be aware of. But I'm not specific to data science, but good to know kind of from a risk platform standpoint.
Okay. Kylie?
I would say cryptocurrency, and then also investing. So far we just have our investing platform is not very well developed because we have a lot of products, but yeah, that's what we trying to go for. And then I think that what the fintech industry try to lay to try to go forward also. A lot of companies, including like Apple, Google, are creating their own coin. So I would say that's a trend right now.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Kylie. Yona?
So the question's asking, I'm not sure if I understand 100% what the question's asking, because it really depends on what the student is maximizing for. Are they maximizing to be in that industry and do well in that industry, or are they maximizing for doing well in an interview? Those two aspects would be very different. But if you want to be in the industry, obviously, like what Alex and Kylie just mentioned, but also working in a fintech company, you very often have to collaborate with product team, with business side. So knowing how product integration happens, what is an API, those things would always help. But if you're targeting for an interview or internship, which was my primary focus when I was a student going through all this, I would say there are a lot of resources online where you can do a project or a competition, like hackathon, but not really, it's on data. So if you have something like that on your profile, it's very easy to get noticed, and that can be your kind of niche in passing through that resume screening phase. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Yona. Okay, so the last kind of category of questions is just around recruiting, as you were talking about that, Yona, now, thinking as our students are currently searching for opportunities this summer, either full-time or internship. So that's what these questions are. Kylie, we'll start with you. What types of skills and experiences do you think employers are seeking in an entry-level data or financial analyst position?
Yes, so for entry-level data analysts and scientists, we usually don't look for a lot of soft skill or definitely soft skill. I mean industry experience. we just look for like if that person is able to like do some basic SQL, Python, and also modeling. It depends on the position, but you have to do well on the technical assessment, and also some soft skill. Usually we're gonna ask a simple analyze question. If you're able to like answer that question, it doesn't have to be correct. It's usually just open-ended question. We want to see your thinking process and stuff. So I would say if you want to be an analyst, SQL is the most right now, and also Tableau.
Okay. Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, definitely SQL. And at my company personally, we use Looker. So the kind of visualizing data and definitely knowing how to visualize data. And I think those are two important skills.
Yona?
Yeah, SQL, Tableau, data visualization, data skills. And also when you're at an interview stage, you want to convey what it's like to be working with you. So don't take it from a student perspective who is being interviewed, but show that, hey, if I were to work in your team, this is the kind of conversation we'll be having. This is the kind of personality I have. So showing a little bit of that, I think, is also helpful.
Yona, can you give an example of how to do that?
Yeah, so for example, if you are asked a question, what is your strength? What is your weakness? Tell me about a time you had to do this. Make it more of a conversation. Like, don't be like, oh, I had this trouble. I was able to overcome it and make it, you know how it's very hard to answer what is your weakness kind of question because you don't want to really show your weakness, but you do have to answer the question. But in my opinion, most impressive candidates were students who said, oh, these were the weaknesses I had. This is how I overcame it. This is who I am right now. I wouldn't be who I am without having that experience. Or tweak it to something that's more relevant. And when you're asked statistics questions or math questions, don't ask for leads like I don't know how to phrase it. Don't just be like, oh, am I doing it right? Is this the way I should be going? But instead you can phrase the question, hey, do you think I'm on the right track? What's your thought on this? Like, how would it be if we go choose A? What's your opinion? Okay, I'll choose this and here are my potential outcomes. What are your thoughts? So be more of that, that comfortable level on talking with the interviewer on what it would be like working with you, ask that rather than asking for, hey, like, am I on the right track? Like, should I do this? Should I do that? It's a little different.
Gotcha. Okay. And kind of staying on that theme of interviewing, technical interviews are part of the process. Kylie, I know you mentioned it already. What else can students do to prepare? We often at the Career Center, we're trying to find resources and it can be challenging. How can students get ready for a technical interview? Are there specific resources or sites that they can use, like HackerRank or LeetCode or other resources? Alex, let's go with you.
Yeah, so I think so personally at my company, we kind of tailor our interview to, a type of problem that you would be solving if you actually were a data scientist at our company. So I think familiarizing yourself with specifically what the company that you're applying for, the types of problems that they could be tackling on a day-to-day basis, and then kind of getting into that mindset. And a lot of what we do is that we kind of run our candidates through a sample data set, and we do some, SQL coding with the data set, and then, try to solve like a machine learning problem with the data set. So I guess, yeah, just knowing exactly how to, from the very beginning, kind of create like an ML model. I think that that's helpful. And yeah, I think Kaggle is a really good resource to kind of train that skill and to be able to do modeling kind of quickly.
Yep. Kylie?
Yeah, same as SoFi. We usually have a data set, a sample data set that similar to what like they're gonna see every day. It's usually gonna be simple, but we want to see the thinking process. So for SQL, I would recommend that you practice on LeetCode just to like for the thinking process. And for SQL, we usually just don't look for the result only. There's are different ways to do to get the same answer. But we want to see the thinking process, how you going down the problems and how you explain the way you did. So instead of just like signing and giving the interviewer the answers, you walk them through your thinking process because that's what we're looking for. And then also like I know there's some like resource available out there for you to like understand SQL better, because a lot of people thinking that SQL is very easy, but it's actually not, because in the work environments we have to like derive very big SQL query that we want to optimize. So how can you optimize your SQL code, like how to make it faster, and then how to make it the most efficiency. That's going to be the important thing, because we don't want to break our server. That's stuff very important in the everyday work. So that's why I like LeetCode, because over there you can see a lot of answer, like how long it takes to run that SQL code. That one place you can practice, and then also to look at like hackering, and try to anything that you or even if it's not related to finance and something that you did already, to understand is very well. And then because we want you to able to explain what you did, because in the work environments, not everyone gonna understand what you did, and then you're able to present what you did. That's is a very important factor.
All right, yeah, thanks. Iona, you want to finish up that, and then we'll turn it over to students' questions?
Yeah, so there are a lot of resources. I completely agree with Alex and Kylie. There are W3 School, LeetCode, Kaggle. Do a lot of hackathon projects whenever you can. It's a way to get more practice and be noticed. Other than that, I really utilized Glassdoor when I was recruiting. There are a lot of like sample questions that the real candidates were asked. So a lot of times they include SQL questions, Python questions. So like solving through it also was a good practice for me.
Okay. Right, so we're going to turn it over to student questions. There's at least one that I didn't ask, but we can come back to it if we need to. I want to make sure that students have a chance to get their questions out. So I am gonna just stop sharing and then open up the chat to see here. Okay, so no questions so far. So students, if you have questions, put them in there. I encourage you to do that. Let me jump back to the question I didn't get to ask, which is around networking. Interested to hear to what degree networking kind of contributed to your career path, and then what suggestions you might have for students. Iona, let's go with you.
Networking. I was that student who had blazer in the backpack and like a pair of dress shoes, and I would always go to networking sessions after classes. There is a bunch. For me, I don't think my current job came from networking, because PayPal wasn't recruiting at Cal at the moment, at that time, at least for non-engineering students. But like every internship I had before PayPal came from networking and all these like career networking sessions. And I found them extremely useful, not just because it led to an internship opportunity, but it kind of was a good practice for me to be out there, speak to professionals, know what kind of questions other students are asking, get tips and apply them on my next, application. And for those reasons, networking was very important for me. And that's why I was there every day. And Career Center had really good resources. I'm not sure if you guys still have that, but there were like handshake signups. You could sign up for, there was like a list of calendar and events that's happening in that month. And it was a very good way for me to keep track of what was happening around the campus.
What about you, Kylie, networking?
Yeah, like I would say that you confident about what you have, even though we're coming to like looking for an entry level job. You don't have like a lot of like experience, but you confident about what you have, showing them, and also showing the interest in with the company and also the position that you want to apply for, because a lot of people that reach out to me, instead of like just like so their interest about the companies, about the position, they showing too much about themselves. So I think like look for when you try to networking and then try to look for referral, to show your interest with the companies and also the position. And then in terms of just like networking overall, to confidently reach out to people, even though that person you don't really know about. But I know that people like most of the people are willing to help out there, and then willing to like answer the question, even if you are not applying to that position, to that company. Do reach out to people, talk to them, and learn more about that what they do every day.
Alex?
Yeah, so I guess I definitely don't think that I got my job from networking. I was notoriously not very good at networking in college because I thought I was just going to go to grad school. But I think that I definitely got my first job from AngelList. So if you're interested in working at like a smaller startup company, a lot of them have internship positions as well. So they're always kind of listed on AngelList. And I think that that's a good way to get your foot into the door, since typically the companies are smaller.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we have some questions come in here. And again, we can, we don't necessarily have to all answer, but what were the mentorship programs at your companies like, if there was one? You can just jump in whenever.
I can start first. PayPal has multiple mentorship programs. For recent college grad, we call it RCG program. If you join PayPal right after college, then you're part of that RCG community for the duration that you're with the company. So you participate in RCG special events, you help with your university recruiting, and that group becomes your friends. So having that was really good within your team. And also it depends by org, but within your team, there's a buddy program. So you're paired with someone 2 or 3 years senior than you who can help you with your career and like, just ramping up faster at your job. And there are other mentorship programs that you can choose within the company, but with someone who's not in your org. So we have a lot of ally programs. So for Unity, it's a group for women. So you can be paired with another woman who is at a leadership level position who can guide you through your career at PayPal. If you're in LGBTQ community, there is other mentorship program for that. So there are a lot of sub-segment level of mentorship program, which I have really benefited from my time at PayPal.
Yeah, at SoFi, we have very similar things. We do have mentorship for women, and also LGBT, and a lot of like Asian, and then a lot of like group within SoFi. And then in terms of mentorship, we do have like within a team, we do have each other, and then also a higher level data scientists or analysts always shadow the entry level data scientists and help out each other. And then I'm not sure if I heard it wrong. We do have an internship program, a summer internship program, where you're gonna be where the intern gonna be assigned to a team and then do the actual work. And mostly it's gonna be a short-term project that takes you 2 to 3 months to complete. Usually a machine learning project, in addition to a presentation and stuff. So it depends on what skill you have, and then we're gonna assign you to a data scientist that can like mentor you the whole time during your internship, and then find a project that match you the best.
Okay, next one. How have you seen the requirements and skill set for entry-level data scientists change over the past couple of years, ever since you first landed your job? And how do you think these entry-level skills will change over time?
That's a hard question because I wasn't involved in the hiring process or resume screening from early on, but just based on what I see and based on seeing new coworkers joining, it seems like there are more and more students who have majored in data science or statistics. When I joined, I was the only business student. Everyone was from math or science background, but it wasn't specifically on data and statistics. There were a lot of computer science students. There was someone who studied science on rocket science. It was a very open field, but I guess because there is more traction on data science as a field, there are more students who are graduating from those courses and they are prepped to be ready for this job, right? So I don't think that is necessarily a requirement though, because there are so many different ways you can prep for this job. But I do see a lot more concentration on students who have graduated from statistics, math, or data science. But that doesn't mean the opportunities are limited, because fintech data science is a growing field. Fintech is doing really well, especially during COVID. So there will be far more opportunities. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't apply.
I was going to say, I think previously a lot of people who worked in data science had physics PhDs. And so, yeah, a lot of my team is made up of people who have physics PhDs. And now it seems like data science is kind of more its own major. And so people applying now have, a data science major or a data science, master's degree. But yeah, I think that being said, the requirements are still more or less the same. So kind of, it doesn't really matter how you get the skills, as long as you have them. I think you can succeed as a data scientist.
Which has a greater intersection in fintech? Is it finance and computer science or finance and data science?
I think it depends on the team you're applying to. If you're, like I said, data science can mean multiple different things. If you're in the data engineering, data processing kind of work, I see a lot of intersection between computer science and finance. For example, a lot of people have computer science as their undergrad and they have like 1-year master degree in business or finance. I saw a lot of those people. If you come to data science for business facing or modeling kind of work, you see a lot of finance/math or data science/math. So when you apply for internships, it'd be helpful to know which team that pertains to. Is it on a more modeling and business side, or is it more on a data engineering processing side? And sorry, one more thing to add on what kind of entry-level skills people look for. I guess that question is stemming from what kind of entry-level skills you can be ready with in applying for this job. And what I found very helpful and what's easier to get noticed is on your resume, if you're not coming from generic majors such as statistics or data science. For me, I was a business student who was applying for a data science role. So I wrote down like projects I've done, online class certificates I had. So having that would get you noticed a little better than someone who doesn't have such.
What do you do outside of work to keep up with data science? If anything, maybe you choose not to.
So I guess it's kind of cheating because it is still within work. But at my company, we have something called Data Science Fridays, where we kind of rotate through the list of data scientists, and each person gets, a Friday, and they have to present like a research article for something that's going on in industry. So they kind of read the article and then prepare a presentation to share that with the rest of the team. So kind of every Friday we have like a new paper that we're reading.
I don't think I do anything particularly to keep up with data science, because it's the kind of skill that once you know how to do it, you know how to do it, and you apply that at work. You don't need to do more practices outside of work unless that gives you joy. For me, I like solving math classes. It's very nerdy of me, but I like just browsing through the web, seeing practice questions for other interviews and just doing them just for the heck of it, or just doing brain teaser questions, market sizing questions, like how many. I think some of the practice questions I had was like very statistics heavy. And if I get challenged, I'm like, okay, I'm not there yet. And I just, just for the heck of it, I like practicing on those.
Yeah, like for me, I still feel like I'm still learning every day, even with like stuff that I'm doing every day, like SQL and Tableau. Sometimes I'm gonna stuck with Tableau for a long time, and still need help with Tableau. That we still have to learn sometimes. Modeling, I like when we do some type of like modeling work, we still learning there. And then for me, I'm still feel like I'm lack of finance knowledge. So that's why I'm trying to like take some online classes for finance. But yeah, like for data science, you not really like have to like think about, oh, I have to like take a course to learn. Sometimes you learn on the job, and then by all the work that you do.
Here's a question for everyone. To what degree, here goes my son, just on cue. To what degree has the pandemic and the economy changed recruiting at your companies?
Yeah, so I guess.
Go for it, Alex.
Okay. Well, obviously, all of our interviews are, conducted via Zoom now, which is kind of sad because we don't get to have lunch with the candidate. So I think that it is hard to kind of get a sense of the person over Zoom. But that being said, it did kind of cut down on our interview time since everything is very streamlined now over Zoom. But I think it can be fatiguing to interview now because you're just going to be sitting on your computer the whole day with your camera on. So it definitely has changed things a little bit. Yeah.
And just to add a clarification to the question, also like in terms of the degree of recruiting, like have your companies scaled back full time or internships? Maybe just if you could add that lens to it too, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. So at my company personally, I think we've hired 200 people during the pandemic. So we've super scaled up, and we're definitely still hiring and recruiting. We're actually hiring much more now that we're in a pandemic. So I think that's really cool to see that we're still, very much so growing as a company.
That's exactly what's happening at PayPal as well. Everything turned virtual, our work turned virtual, interviews, probably there are lesser steps now. I'm not involved in that, so I wouldn't know. But as for the degree of recruiting, I can say it only increased. There are more open positions than ever. Pandemic is a horrible thing, and it really crushed our economy, and it's very bad for humanity. But for fintech, it really expedited the adoption of online digital payments. So there are more need than ever for online digital payments to be there, and we're hiring very actively.
Yeah, I would say same as SoFi. We growing, and then we actually went international during the pandemic. So we have an office in Hong Kong, and then we are filing back our IPO. So we're gonna be public in the end of Q1. so we do actually growing during the pandemic, and then we also like hiring for more people. There's also like people leave and go, but I haven't been a SoFi for too long, but I don't see we like firing anyone. We actually looking for more people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think we see that in, on Handshake, when in the roles that are posted, we see a lot of data science roles. Don't forget the data science career fair and software engineering career fair on Thursday. So a lot of companies there. Question about back to the resume and showing the experience. So we mentioned Kaggle and Hackathon. What are your opinion on projects? Like maybe personal projects, side projects, or even research projects? How important are those, or how valuable are those on a resume?
I can take that. So when I applied for a PayPal internship, I knew nothing about data science. I didn't have good background. I didn't even know these tools and projects existed, but granted, that's 5 years ago, so it's a very different time. But for me, I had leadership experience. I was leading Ascend, which is a premier finance organization at Cal. So I had leadership experience. I had startup work experience where I picked up SQL a little bit. I had internship experience at Big Four. So those all combined, they thought, okay, let's interview her, see like what she has. And our conversation really kicked off. I showed that I have understanding for SQL and statistics. It's just that I never had a formal education in it. And I showed that I'm a fast learner. I can do this. Granted, times have changed and people have more fancier resumes, and I see a lot of like personal websites, but if that personal website doesn't have much, I think it's better not to show it. Like, for example, if you did a couple of hackathon projects, it's probably better to just display it on your resume instead of building a website for it. Really impressive website I've seen is this person who's really interested in nonprofit, and she has done nonprofit projects using data science and machine learning. She mapped out how public transit would work in this specific town in third world country if they were to design it using machine learning. So those things are very impressive, and I would definitely have a website for that. Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, I think side projects are definitely valuable to add on your resume. You can kind of have like a project section. Actually, my first job, I had a project section, and I was working on this kind of French book mapping with my dad, which kind of used NLP. And the hiring manager for my first company was really interested in that project and kind of got talking about language learning. And so I think it does like spark a conversation with someone on the team.
Thinking also about grad school, a couple of questions we're asking around. Do you think graduate program, maybe the masters in information data science that Berkeley has, are those programs or degrees necessary to kind of break into data science?
I'll say it's necessary, but it's not always a must. A lot of my coworkers don't have a master degree. But nowadays, I think for data science, if you don't have like 4 or 5 years of experience, they're gonna look for your master degree. And I think the skill that I learned during my MIS program was really valuable. Where I can do the hand-on projects, where I can actually work with a team with like 3 or 4 students, and then do a actual product, project, and then showing my products and results to all to everyone, and also the cohort. I think those are very variable skill. Yeah, like I got this question a lot. I think it's depend on what you have and what you know already. If you think you're able to like go down and learn by yourself, and then do a lot of side projects and then present yourself out there, and I think maybe a master degree is not necessary. But if you think if you feel like, oh, I'm not ready for the industry, I would like to learn more, and then bring yourself a little bit up. then you go for a master degree. It doesn't have, and then a lot of people now do go for a master degree because that's what they prefer right now. And then if you look out there, I think it's about 50 or 70% of the data scientists now have a master degree. I don't say like everyone have it. And then even my manager, he doesn't have a master degree. So it's very depends on case to case and what you think you'll be able to do. Oh, I would like to add something else. So if you don't have any experience, and then I think a master degree gonna help you like get to where you want to be faster. Then like just like doing an internship and then be an analyst, and then spend 2-3 years to be a analyst and then just learn yourself. I think like a master degree gonna be a very good foundation for you to get into the data science world faster.
Yeah. And then just to close off, maybe from each of you, what is like one last piece of advice you would give to students? Again, maybe those coming from the finance industry looking to break into data science, or vice versa. One last piece of advice for students.
Don't give up. It's very easy to give up. It's very easy to you get rejected so many times and you start thinking it's something wrong with me, but no, it's just a very competitive market, and Cal has so many different students, and on the paper we can't show who we truly are, right? And I see the next question, and this is a question I always had in mind too, so I'll answer that too. But do you need experience if it says X number of experience? No, that's not true. I applied to my job when it said it requires 3 years of experience, and here I am. So don't let those things bother you. Also, show your strength in resume as much as possible. Hit up people in LinkedIn, ask for coffee, just cold email people. If you know someone, if you have a connection, and if you get a referral, it's easier to get a job than not. So good luck, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, Yana. How about you, Alex?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think as long as you're personable, I think that goes a really long way in an interview. I've definitely been on interviews before where, maybe the person knows a lot of things technically, but they don't really seem like they're, would be a friendly person to work with. I think that speaks volumes, and kind of, even if you maybe potentially don't know as much or don't have as many years of experience, I think if you're friendly and like ready to learn and, ready to ask questions, I think that those are really valuable skills.
Okay, Kylie, before I turn it over to you, just for the panelists, if you feel comfortable, if you want to put your contact details into the chat, please do so, or maybe your LinkedIn name, students can reach out to you only if you feel comfortable. Put it in the chat now, and then Kylie, we'll turn it over to you for the last word from the panelists.
Sure. Yeah, I totally didn't, and then you reach out to people and also ask for help. For your first job, it's never be easy. Just like reach out, and then you will be able to.
Oh no. I think we lost Karen. I think it was networking. That was kind of the theme of the
Yeah,
answer.
sorry, my connection is really bad today. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, we lost you a little bit there, Kylie, but why don't you just kind of give us a quick summary around networking, right?
Yes, it's just networking, and then also like think about what you want to do specifically, not just like data science, and then even just fintech. Like think about, if I want to like focus on marketing, either I'm trying to do focus on customer experience, because I think that going to be helpful. And then do focus on those skills rather than just like try to learn everything.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kylie. Thank you to Alex. Thank you to Jan. I really appreciate your input and your answers and your willingness just to share with students. I think there's some great information coming out. We heard here. I encourage students, if you have follow-up questions, either for Karen and I at the Career Center, book an appointment with us. 30 minutes, we can help you with some of your kind of questions, or whatever support you need. Reach out to the panelists, and there are some LinkedIn hyperlinks in the chat. Open those now so you can save them. But this video will be on our YouTube channel fairly soon. So thanks to everyone. Thanks for joining as a panelist and students. Enjoy the rest of your week. And to students, we hope to see you through the Career Center appointment soon. Thanks, everyone.